What's up, everyone? Welcome to 3 out of 10 Anime Fans Recommend you check out the podcast if you ever get reincarnated into another world, aka 3 out of 10 Anime. This is the show where it's all about having fun conversations to rank anime based on a standard set of criteria so they can be organized, compared, and contrasted. We discuss a different show or movie each week, so whether you're a seasoned weeb or new to the genre, we know you'll have a good time. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Here's the agenda for each show. We start out by defining our first impression of the show in one sentence, then going into our personal enjoyment, which is our own individual 1 to 10 ranking about how much we enjoyed watching the show on our own personal rubrics. Then we go into a technical assessment where we come to a collective ranking of 1 to 10 for the show on its technical achievement based on 4 categories. Then at the end, we give our comparisons and recommendations for other shows you should check out and announce what we will be covering in the next episode. I'm Brett.
I'm Skyler.
And I'm Braydn.
We are your hosts from the United States. We each have varying opinions, tastes, and backgrounds, which is going to result in some interesting and relatable dialogue, no matter who you are. We're grateful you're joining us for our discussion about this week's show. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, which from henceforth will be known as Slime. An isekai, available on Crunchyroll. We're going to be covering all 48 episodes. That's season 1 and season 2. Spoiler warning, expect spoilers. If you don't want any, pause, go watch the show, come back, and then you can be spoiler free, because you'll... Not necessarily a mature content warning for this show, but a fan service warning, if that's not your thing. Without further ado, how would you guys describe your first impressions of Slime in one sentence?
I'll kick it off. It's not gonna be what you guys think. So,
Okay.
knowing what you guys know about me, I'm gonna say this. This anime is anime about 4 characters, if you can really call them that. And the main character eats 2 of the other ones.
Okay. All right. Okay. It's more descriptive than your original 2-word sentence of this show.
Oh yeah. No, there's some stuff to talk about here. I'm just not I'm not gonna be friendly toward it. That's all.
Okay. Skyler, what's your one sentence?
My one sentence: a casual isekai where there's not much action because they're in meetings most of the time.
All right. This is probably your most interesting one sentence of our podcast
that's good.
to date. Rather than just a description of the show, you've actually, I feel like you're evolving. You must be consuming something.
No,
or eating something.
don't. It's sushi. Do more sushi. Do less of this.
Okay, my one sentence is going to be a carefree anime that you can't take too seriously. Neither should you. And if you don't, you'll have an okay time. That's my one
Not
sentence.
the head. Okay.
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 So those are our one sentences. What ranking did you guys give of Slime 1 to 10 for your personal enjoyment? I'll go first. My personal enjoyment of Slime was a 6.5. So for me, a 5 is a show that, like, I don't really care if I finish watching it or I don't. I'm just super neutral. Like, I could stop on episode 6 and my life would be no different than if I finished the whole thing. 6 is kind of a step up where it's like, okay, it's a good show. It keeps me watching, but it really, like, lacks some things to get me super interested, or it has some things that really, really bug me that make me not really, like, super hyped on it. Then a 7 is something that's just a little bit above that, so I'm going 6.5. Skyler, where'd you land?
So I gave Slime a 7, and for me, a 7 is a show that I liked, and I might recommend it, but I probably won't watch it again.
All right. Braydn.
So, in my rhetoric and my list of how my critiques go, anything above a 4 is something I recommend to people. Like, if you don't get above a 2, that means I wouldn't normally, like, finish a show on my own, which is where a lot of shows sit for me. This show, you know, it's earned the new status. This is my first 1 ranked anime because this is such an offensive anime for storytelling, for like entertainment, for like any kind of there's just so much lacking, and there's so much hype, and I have to hear about this anime all the time, and I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I really can't.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
If this show wasn't so hyped up all the time and it was just an under the bridge isekai, would it bother you as much?
I mean, I probably would encounter it less. So it probably would bother me less. Yes. I think it would bother me less because I would have to like encounter it more than once. Yet it's not small, and I have to keep talking about it. I have to keep, like, if I want to bring something up, I can bring up this, and people know what I'm talking about. And no, there's anime that just don't hit the mark for me, that just like they're really doing a lot of things funky, or they're being gratuitous in ways that I'm not comfortable with. All that stuff, I don't finish them, whatever. This one, it is so egregiously boring, so egregiously just redundant and fruitless, and I just don't have the motivation to like give this anime any credence. I'm gonna leave that right now. I do not like this anime. I will not give a single note for this anime. Except for one. There's one little thing I found out of it. Okay. But it's not anything that people will ever talk about this anime about.
You have a way of like picking those things out of shows that not a lot of people pick out of it. Before we further unpack all of that animosity that is tightly bundled and taped and wrapped in aluminum foil deep inside your soul, I actually want to do something a little different. Let me throw out some numbers to you guys. Braydn, if you need to mute yourself for just 2 seconds, feel free to do so.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna do that.
I want to get your guys' gut reaction to the fact that Slime on my anime list has an 8.1 out of 10. On Crunchyroll, a 4.7 out of 5, and on IMDb, an 8.1 out of 10. What are your guys' gut reactions to that? Braydon's guts are spewing onto the floor. Skyler, what's your initial thoughts at that?
No, it sounds about right, honestly. Because like I said, it's just a good casual anime, and I'm on several social media platforms where I kind of like to go and read comments, and I'm in the Slime subreddit, and yeah, just going through and reading people's comments, and just how many people are in that community as well. It's about what I expected.
Okay. I'll admit that I actually was surprised. I was actually surprised, especially on Mal, to see an 8.1 out of 10, because to some points that we will unpack, I think it's a pretty generic isekai with not a lot to offer, and generic isekai don't really stand out that much on places like Mal, or even like, some of these other places. So I'm a little surprised at the 8.1. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, I treat that kind of rating, it just looks like people are throwing numbers in the air. They don't want to get anything lower than a 7.5. So people like it, up its rating. It's popular, put it up there a little bit more, because it doesn't earn it. It actively hits an average state besides some flashy things at some fight scenes. It doesn't hit. I don't know if it hits on like episode 1. It starts in like, it's a slime, and he gets absorb abilities, and then that's it. You did it. You watched the entire anime in one episode. Because it doesn't do anything. There's nothing more that happens in that show afterwards.
Okay, we can't contain it anymore. I've got the box cutter. I'm slicing the top.
I'm breaking free. I'm climbing out of here.
Let's unleash. Let's unpack the things we didn't like about this show. We can't hold it in any longer.
Can I lead in, please? Please.
Of course.
All right. I first said that this is a show about 4 characters. Let me list them for you. There is the main slime, who is Rimuru. There is the dragon you meet in the first episode or 2 episodes, Veldora Tempest. Then the third character is every NPC who stays out of Rimuru's way, because they're all the same. Some of them have boobs, some of them have wings. That doesn't matter. If they're staying out of Rimuru's way, they're all the exact same person with the exact same motivations, which is to stay out of Rimuru's way. Then there's the 4th character, the Emery's beasts that get in Rimuru's way. He eats those ones. Always. He never loses. He never struggles. He always eats them. So he ate both. The 2 I mentioned he ate are Veldora Tempest the dragon at the start. Spoilers. And every other NPC that's an antagonist to him. That's it. There you go. That's slime anime. Congratulations.
Okay, wait. There's a 5th category, I think, that deserves to be thrown out there. And the 5th category is the higher level of people in the world, like the demon lords. You have Milim and some of the other demon lords. I think they're a fifth category,
I only saw.
Right?
Okay, so I've only seen the first season. I did that for you guys for the conversation.
Milim is in the first season.
Yep, she is.
And she's definitely in the category of characters that stay out of Rimuru's way.
Okay.
Like, I don't see the demon lords that higher level having any more influence on the story, as in they stay out of Rimuru's way while he's doing whatever growth is happening until he envelops the entire world. He's like a ugly Kirby. He just swallows everything in his path.
Was there anything you did like about the show? I mean, you gave it a 1, so I don't think there's anything, but you said you took one thing away from it.
There is one moment. I mean, I've said, like, the start of the anime had me hooked. Like, it had me, like, interested. That's what I'm talking about. Because hooks, there are plenty. There also could be the note about Shizue. That was an interesting moment in the first season when there's a girl that he's, like, wanted to protect, and she passed away, and, like, it was, like, a memorial honor to, like, eat her. Like, oh, that's weird and interesting. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Nothing happens because of that. It's just some fainting wave in the air. I know what I said. This is about Kirby-like characters. This is about slimes. We can't avoid it. I'm sorry, audience. Mature warning reestablished. Thank you very much. Anyway, so the one interesting thing. I'm sorry, you guys. You gotta stop me. Rein me in.
To your point, actually, real quick about the Shizue. Yeah, when she popped up, and yeah, of course, the intro spoiled it. It was like, oh, so that's how he gets the human form.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't watch anime intros. Never watch anime intros.
So,
hot take from this podcast: never watch anime intros until you're on the last episode, even then, maybe like go back and watch it after the last episode.
Yes, because there have been one anime that I have seen where the main character is like a monster and they never become human. Mm-hmm. Well, but even then they kind of do, but they don't do it in a weird way. And then the second one is a manga that hasn't been adapted into an anime as far as I know, but I do not know where that one went. So I'll have to come back when I find that one, now that you brought it up, Braydn. Mm-hmm. But the first one I was talking about is I'm a Spider, So What? And that one is an interesting one because I started off liking it. Mm-hmm. And then the longer it goes on, the less and less I like it. But the weird thing about the spider one is that it happens way faster than normal. But bringing it back to slime. Yeah. So one thing that I actually find interesting is that I was not hooked by the beginning.
Okay.
Because to me, the beginning was hyper generic for isekai. Where it's, you have some middle-aged office worker who dies in some kind of accident. Okay, yep, they're isekai'd. Okay, they just happen to be a monster this time around. Okay, great. Whatever. They're overpowered. Okay, yep, that's within expectations.
Oh, you know what? I remember now. There is a 5th character. The Great Sage. I forgot about the Great Sage.
Oh.
That's my favorite character in the anime, if I'm really being honest.
what do they call it when there's a character whose only purpose is to describe plot points?
Oh,
What is that?
I
What is that
don't have
person
that.
called?
Sorry.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not narrator, but something to that
Yeah.
effect.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I'm gonna I'll throw out a couple things.
Listeners, I never said the thing that I wanted, like the good thing. We'll get to that because we're rolling in conversation. We'll get to that here in a minute. Go ahead, Brett.
So I'll throw out an interesting take since we've all shared our take on the beginning, like the first episode where he's walking down the road, he just gets stabbed by this random guy running down the road with a knife for no explained reason, and the one thing he says is like, destroy my computer. Like, it's just kind of like, it was kind of funny, and I think for me it set the tone of like, okay, in no way should I take this show seriously. This is I am purely here for nonsense and just to go along for a little mythical journey that has pretty colors, and I do think the pretty colors held up. Like, I think the animation was pretty light and fun and good, and there was lots of bouncing of lots of things, which which they got the bouncing in Slime really good. But anyway, so yeah, the first episode for me kind of like set the tone of what I should expect from the show, and so I was kind of into it, and I've loved dragons since I could probably like perceive color from the time I was a baby. So anytime there's a dragon, I'm already into it. So yeah, for me, I was kind of hooked by the beginning as well, probably more like Braydn than Skyler.
I guess for me, it was just generic. There was nothing super interesting about it. But like I said, I'm an isekai junkie, so...
I would say the interesting thing I took out of the first bite was the Great Sage. Was that interaction between the ability tree speaking to the character. I thought that was refreshing of a way of walking into an isekai. I bet there's other anime that do that. I haven't.
Yeah.
I probably have even encountered it. It's notable because I have to like the one character I actually stand out in here is, like I said, is the Great Sage for me. So that's my hook from the first. Because otherwise he dies, he goes to another world that's funky and weird. Where is he? Who am I? What am I doing here? Yeah, that's just Isekai. Yep.
Okay. Do you want to go in, Braydn, to the thing you did like?
I think we're gonna tease our characters a little bit, our fans a little bit more, and swing that a little bit further because it's a fun side note, and again, it's not gonna be to people that really like the anime. It's not gonna be like a redemption thing for me, the villain of this episode here, because I am gonna. I am ready. Give me anything. Lob me something about this anime. Let's rip into it.
I'll mention a couple other things that I liked and didn't like, and I'm gonna actually go into a little bit of season 2. So in season 1, Braydn, the things that you said that you didn't like, that I normally really don't like about shows as well, which is like, does the main character ever have any struggle? No.
Nope.
Is there ever any danger or fear?
Nope.
No. Is there ever any whatever? And normally, under normal circumstances, that kind of thing bugs me because I'm like, okay, why am I watching this show? There's nothing for me to get invested into. However, I watched Slime during a really stressful time for me, and it usually involves work. Those of you who've been listening know that I have a pretty stressful job, so I work a ton, and I was like, man, I'm exhausted. I need something. I can just, at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. when I finish working, I can just turn on an episode and just have no worries, no cares. I don't have to worry about someone being in danger. I don't have to feel stress about how are they going to get out of the situation. I'm just going to know everything's going to be fine. And so for me, it scratched that itch, even though that portion of my body is so tiny that I almost never want that itch scratched. That it did scratch it this one time, and I was okay with it for
Brett,
that
I'm going to
reason.
pull up Brett on you.
Go for it.
If you had watched this anime any other time in your life when you weren't stressed, would you have given any credence at all?
Okay, thank you. That is a great question. And this is where season 2 comes in for me.
You came up with it yourself.
Yeah. So this is where season 2 comes in for me, because season 1, I didn't really like or dislike. I would give season 1 like a 5.5 because I did decide to finish it, but there were times I had my finger on the right arrow key on my keyboard and I was like, this is getting a little boy. Just skip a little bit here. Like I really don't care about the meeting with the Dwarf King about how you're going to establish trade in this nation. I really don't care. So I would skip forward a little bit because I was just there to see some fun animation and stuff. So season 1, 5.5, but season 2 is where it really got interesting for me because they took some really unexpected twists and turns, but that resolved in a really stupid, frustrating way. So season 1,
completely expected way. For this
yes,
anime.
a completely exactly. That's what I'm saying. They took unexpected turns, but then resolved them in an expected way. So, for example, in season 2, the whole nation, Rimuru's whole nation, just gets attacked, and tons of people just get massacred. And I was like, oh, frick, like, they just killed a bunch of people. And as soon as all those people died, and first of all, I was into it because I'm like, wow, this is actually interesting. This is engaging. This is way better than season 1. I'm into this. Please don't bring everybody back to life. Please don't bring everybody back to life.
Let there be consequences.
I was thinking, the moment it happened, I was like, please don't bring just at least let one person die. Let someone die. And then, of course, what happens? Everyone comes back to life. Now, one of the super interesting things they did, though, is when they were like, oh, Rimuru needs to be a demon lord now. I was like, okay, that's an interesting thing. And he was like, so I'm just going to go kill these 10,000 people. And then he does. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. He just up and murders 10,000 people? Like, what the freak? So, like, there were moments of season 2 that, like, I was, like, way more into, but the resolution to almost all of those moments was something stupid. So, like, season 2 was more of a roller coaster, whereas season 1 was more of a whatever. Yeah. So that's where I land at 6.5, because, like, season 2 had more things that had me engaged, but... and like I remember I was watching season 2 at a ski resort. Me and my wife were visiting, and I was sitting there, and multiple times out loud while she was like, on the balcony or in the kitchen or something, I would be like, what? Like, what did they just do? This is not the show I expected from season 1. And then I would be like, don't do that. They're all going to come back to life. And like multiple times. So anyway, I'll stop talking. I've been talking a lot, but to answer your original question, Braydn, yes, I would have liked it less if I watched it when I wasn't so stressed. However, season 2 brought it up a little bit for me, so I think I would still land around a 6.
If you made it through season 1.
Yeah, if I made it through season 1. So yeah, I think I still land around a 6 if I didn't
it hit you
enjoy my experience with season 1 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and one thing I will note as well is I kind of had some of the same issues with season 2, which is that at first, I was completely fine with it because, kind of like I said, it's a casual isekai. And that is a thing of like, okay, yeah, I don't have to expend any brain power to watch this because there's no stakes, there's no anything. But the one thing I will give Slime credit for is that in a lot of isekais, the main character is honestly pointless because they have no goal. And because they have no goal, they're not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
And so these overpowered characters, because they're always overpowered in isekai, they're just kind of driven around by these side characters who can't do anything by themselves, and so the main character has to go do it for them. But with Slime, he has a goal. He has something that he's trying to do. And so even though it's hyper casual, I'm still able to watch and be like, oh, okay, I can see why you're doing that. Which is one of the reasons why I liked it so much, is because for once, the main character actually had a motivation, something he was actually trying to do.
Okay, but saying that Rimuru had like motivation and a plan is like saying Dora the Explorer had a plan. Except in Dora the Explorer, there was Swiper the Fox. In this anime, there's nothing that stands this way. He just keeps walking until he gets to where he says he's going to go.
Until season 2.
Until season 2, apparently.
but then yeah, the resolution is almost always like,
Yeah, there you go. There's a hot take. If you like, no, I'm not gonna say. Okay, no, I'm gonna say it. If you like that time I got reincarnated as the slime, you should probably watch Dora the Explorer. But it might be a little bit hot for you. It might be a little spicy for your little meatballs. Jeez Louise, this anime. Okay, I got a thing. Are you guys ready for a thing?
I'm ready for a thing.
So one thing that just left me upset, more than just like disappointing me, more than just like frustrating me, more than underwhelming me, more than making me like repulsed at the anime, more than making me, sad for like art in general, more than and more than all of that stuff. One that just left a bad taste in my mouth, that just gave me the nasty tongue keys, is there are many times in the show where Rimuru upgrades monsters. He names them and they become evolved forms of their monster form. But every single one of them are bodybuilders or babes, right? Every single one. They're all like basically humanoid models. They're not monsters anymore. And like that just sits weird. Like they had like some respects of culture. They had some respects of character shape and the like. And now they're just like, that's the green upgrade monster and that's the purple upgrade monster. The goblins and demons respectively. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's like a weird kind of like whitewashing racist kind of note I really did not sit well with. I think that's disgusting.
That's really interesting. Really interesting because I that flew over my head. Like I didn't even think about it. The wolves are the exception. The wolves turned into dire wolves with the unicorn horn and everything.
Yes. Besides the wolves.
But I see what you're saying, and I had never thought about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so that is actually something that I notice, and it's a trope that I find to be annoying because there are several animes where it's like, oh, well, the male version of the monster is a monster, but the female version of the monster is a human, whatever you want, whatever stereotype they're going for.
2 slimes on the chest, yeah.
Well, and that's why I say whatever stereotype, because
again,
there's several different standards of beauty, and so whatever standard of beauty that race happens to be is what that human is. But the males are still monsters because
that's true.
Tropes.
Yep. But you go between go ahead.
Well, yeah, even with the lizardmen, like that's exactly what happens. It's like you have Gabiru, who is full lizard man, but the female versions of the lizards are not lizards at all. They just happen to have wings, and I guess horns.
Yeah, and that's.
I mean, to be fair though, if I was a slime, you know where I'd want to be carried around all day?
Yeah.
I think Rimuru had it right. That's all I'm going to say. Rimuru had it right.
His one redeemable trait, and this is where thank you, Brett, for bringing this up, because this is like the one thing I want to bring you around to. It's like the one thing this anime did was represent the booba, respectively. Like notion, that whole meme. I don't know if you guys, I want to say this for the viewers' sake, because I already explained this to you guys once before, is there's a whole movement where there are cam girl Twitch streamers, right? Or YouTube content creators, where they're like doing stuff, but everybody knows that they're there to show off their body in whatever clothing they want. They're there for that. However, some people will walk into those streams and be very disrespectful or and make the streamer uncomfortable with their comments and their types and whatnot. So there was a huge movement of people that said, that's not allowed. We know why we're here, and they know why you're here, and you're going to be respectful here. So people in chat would just shout, booba, respectfully. Rimuru does that. Rimuru says, oh my goodness, those boobs are huge. I love them. And that's it. He's not lustful over like doing wicked nasty things, hentai coo, and he's not all into like really sexualizing or dwelling on the fact that they like all the female characters have large breasts. He just enjoys them, and then we move on to the anime, and that is a good note. That leaves a good taste in my mouth. Good job, for that one thing, Slime. You did one thing right.
So actually, I will agree with you on that because another problematic trope in isekai is that all the main characters are either complete blockheads or they're so dense that they're a black hole, or might as well be a black hole, or they are incredibly perverted.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Like, oh. But Rimuru is not either of those. So.
And this, Braydn, that brings up a really interesting point. I don't know if I've talked about it in a previous episode, but one thing that anime is fascinating to me for is that, so I watch a lot of anime with my wife, right? And the amount of times we haven't been bothered watching something together that has that focus in a show has really surprised both of us. And it's because a lot of times in decent anime, there will be that focus on that thing,
on sexualization,
but in a way that's but that's not in a perverse way. And so it doesn't feel as like weird or gross or uncomfortable. And so like, but then you have like, you know, like American TV where like it is there to be a sexual thing. So it's just this really interesting, like anime just has this weird way of portraying those things without being creepy in some
Sometimes.
shows, not in all shows, in
That's
some
definitely
shows.
not the norm.
and it's really interesting and weird. Like normally scantily clad characters is a turnoff for me when I'm watching something because I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But in anime, when it's like it's an interesting character who's super powerful and strong and intelligent and all these things, and it's like it doesn't hit as weird as other genres. Anyway, total side tangent, but we were kind of on the topic.
One quick note, though, I actually kind of realized that there is actually one character who does kind of embody the perverted sense, but they're handled in a good way, and that's Gobata. Because he'll like make these comments and he'll make these flippant remarks about women, but they don't just let them slough off or accept him. They'll bash his skull in every time he says it.
Now,
and I think that's a good point in that sense because they're recognizing like, yeah, you said it, but it's not acceptable. So.
Guys, crew, brothers in anime. If there is one character I was rooting for this entire show, it was Gopta. And I didn't realize the thing about like going against what I just said about the booba respectively thing. But like he was the one character that did not get humanized when he got named, when he leveled up and whatever. And I kept waiting for him to be like an interesting character, to have a special ability, to like make a kind of note, but he was just he did another mark on the things that time I got reincarnated as a slime let me down on.
So actually, a lot of the goblins did not get humanized. They kept their goblin-esh faced.
Well,
all the goblin riders, the younger like youth generation.
Oh, did they stay small?
Like they stayed small. They kept like they had their goblin faces. Like it's not Gobta. It's his second in command. What is his name?
I believe it's his name.
Gobchi. Yes, Gobchi. Yeah. So he has that goblin face with the big nose. The chef, even though he's an adult, he's still very goblin.
I loved when Rigurd turned from this old man into this like ripped old man. I actually thought it was funny. I was like, go for it. go for it. But he's still this crybaby. Anyway, okay, well let's start putting a bow on the things we liked and didn't like. Are there any like other quick points that you guys want to throw out before we start going into the technical discussion?
I got one more. Of course I got one more. I got this for days, bro. There was a couple times in the show where Rimuru would just show up with a new ability, and it's like usually he would like it would be like, oh, I got this monsters, I consumed this monster, I now have this ability from it. And it'll make that line, but then a couple times he would just show up with like 5 new abilities and no tie at all. I'm like, well, you had a magic system that could show any amount of character progression for your character, and I was just like, now he just does. He just does more when he wants more. And that, not good. Not good slime. Bad slime. Bad.
Convenience.
Yes.
So unfortunately, this is another trope in Isekai that I really hate, where you'll have characters and they gain 10 abilities per episode or per chapter of the manga, to the point where it's like every time they show their status screen, it literally fills the entire screen or the entire page. And I'm just sitting there, I was like, well, what's the point?
Yep.
Is it just so that when a situation comes up, you can just be like, hey, I established it before, so it's okay. But then...
But even more...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Keep going.
But even then, they ruin it even more because then they usually get some kind of skill or ability where it's just like, oh, you can invent new things. So if it doesn't exist anyways, you can just come up with it. Or, oh, that one hasn't existed yet. We're submitting a request to the admin. And yeah, they approved it. You now have a new ability that didn't exist before. It's like, what?
And on top of that, what bugs me more than all of those things, in conjunction with them, is when they unlock all of these incredible abilities, they still use the same 4 for the whole show and never anything more. And I'm thinking specifically of a show I'm going to recommend at the end of this episode where there's a whole tech tree, and if I hear in the next season airstrike shield one more time, I'm going to lose my freaking mind.
Because like they show him like obtaining other cool looking things, and they just don't explore it. They just they throw them to the side, and then they come up with random crap on the other hand that they don't use, and that word wasn't explained. But
Well, and to add fire to this fuel, because again, this is something we all cumulatively do not like about this, is that we are gamers. All 3 of us are gamers. Yes. And so if you're telling us, hey, I've given you all these spells, or essentially builds, things you can do, but, oh, this character is just so unadventurous in an adventurous setting that they just stick with the same 2 builds, come on. That's just a slap in the face.
I mean, at times though, sometimes if you're in a really technical game, you find a build, you just kind of stick with it. And if it's like, it is my longsword left click, kill things build, and there's this whole magic system you just ignore because you just want to be a knight and you just want to smack stuff with a sword. Like, I get that too, but I see what you're saying.
Well, but that's actually gave me an idea for a story where it's like you have this overpowered character who gets all of these wizard spells, but they want to be a knight.
There is one, but it's the opposite. It is where, oh crap. No, there's 2. There's 2 anime I'm thinking of that are exactly that. I will need to go find the names of them, but there's 2 anime that I think of, one of which I've seen, which is exactly what you just said.
There is one that I've seen, but it was bad. I am not recommending it.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, other quick points to throw out. Skyler, did you have anything didn't like?
Did not like. I was fine with it when it was just a casual, but then when the whole city massacre happened and then it got walked back, I was just kind of like, come on, really? Because it just cheapens the entire experience. And where I've read the manga, there are things happening in the manga right now where I'm just head in hands going, what on earth are you doing? This is stupid.
Gotcha. Anything else?
Not that comes to mind.
All right. I'll throw out a few. I thought the music was interesting for the first few episodes. Got a little redundant, but it was bright and happy. I think the animation, I liked the animation. I like that animation style. Bright, vibrant, very, very moving and fun and upbeat. When Rimuru is doing his thing as a slime, I enjoyed. Benimaru, the red guy with the swords, who Rimuru encounters in the woods. He encounters the trio, the old man samurai guy, and then the red guy. I liked his character a lot. I actually really enjoyed him, and in season 2, I liked him as well. I liked Shizue and her whole thing, but I'm gonna say one of the main things I didn't like by bringing her up is that something Braydn mentioned. It felt like they had so many opportunities to hit on all of these occasions, whether it was Milim coming in, or whether it was Shizue, or whether it was him going to the school and helping these kids, or whether it was this or that. But they missed almost every time. I was like, oh, this is almost an emotional moment, but it's not really going to fulfill. And oh, this is almost going to be tense, but him and Milim are just going to one-shot the giant floating whale wing thingies, or
whatever the crap they throw.
Or season 2 they have the big climax with the demon lords, and he just sends two people off to do the fighting, and like it's just like every time I started to get hooked in and reeled in, I like the hook fell out of my mouth, and I was like, oh well, that could have been good. And I think if I was gonna have like another sentence to describe, like I gave my one sentence that I'll stick to, but if I was gonna give another one, it would be an isekai that almost hits but misses pretty much all the time.
Haiku about slime.
From a like plot and draw perspective. Anyway, okay, so there's some of the points why we liked and didn't like it. I gave it a 6.5, Skyler a 7, Braydn a 1.
What?
A 1.
It deserved it.
Uno. So let's jump into our technical discussion of slime. So our technical discussion is broken into 4 categories: art, story, characters, delivery. We rank each one 1 to 5, 1 being terrible, 5 being exceptional. 3 is the middle ground for all of them, and they all have the same meaning at 3, which is on par with what you would expect from a decent show. Didn't stand out for being really bad or really good. So we start always with art, which includes music, animation, art style, opening and intro. 1 terrible, it's frequently bland, poorly done, and or repetitive. 5 exceptional, it always delivers powerful moments in an excellent fashion.
Yep.
Art. What are you guys thinking?
Well, I didn't notice the music in the actual show, which means that for me it wasn't good or bad.
Yeah.
It was decent. It was decent.
Yeah. I do have the ending song for the second season saved on a Spotify playlist that I listen to regularly.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, the art was good. Brett, you mentioned this several times in your enjoyment of just the animation and art style and how well it was executed.
It was a really pretty show, which to me made it easier to consume. Like, it was easier to overlook the bad technical aspects of it because the art was so pretty. I was like, I can just kick my feet up and have my hot tea, and it's 11 o'clock and I just finished working, and it's just really pretty and it looks nice, and I can just forget about everything. So I actually think the animation was a kind of above par. It's definitely not like groundbreaking, award winning, but I definitely think it was a really good looking anime.
I have to say something real quick here, because my roommate will put me on a pike if I don't bring up this point. Is he has a problem with the animation, in that, well, not so much the animation, but people like to talk about the animation of like the fight scenes and some like the very like visual blow uppy stuff, and he wants me to make sure I say it's not animation. All of that is just lighting effects or like After Effects kind of stuff, which is part of the whole process. I'm not trying to take it out, but if you want to just qualify it on just animation, something that's offloaded to a different part of the process.
Well, but definitely there, depending on what you mean by After Effects. After Effects don't quite exist in animation because those have to be drawn in. And so
there's probably
it's like
somebody whose words will better convey what I'm trying to say than me.
I think I know where you're coming from, Braydn, and I would say that even if we take that in mind, I would propose that in the moments where fights weren't happening, like just like in the moments where they're in the world, or he's in the city, or he's in the cave meeting Veldora, and he's like eating the little plants and they're getting dissolved into his blue sliminess. Like I think those moments were animated really well. I'm talking outside of the fight scenes, because I think the fight scenes were pretty, they were meh to good, but I actually think all of the other little animations were really, really nice. Like when he would make a potion, or even when they would do some of like the moments in anime where like they go over the top and then his eyes kind of bug out, but they looked like slime eyes. So anyway, I'm proposing that the animation outside of the fight scenes was actually maybe a little above par.
I would agree with that, but the one thing that I would call to attention, and this was in my one sentence, is that most of the time they were in meetings.
Yeah.
Just sitting around talking. It's not exactly hard to animate mouths when there's not a lot of body motion.
Maybe what I'm feeling right now is that I like this, because we talked about this when we talked about Sword Art Online, is that how I wasn't particularly wowed by the animation style, and I'm thinking like I might have I need to recognize that I have a palette higher than what we're agreeing our 3 is. So this would put me like, yeah, it was fine. Like the animation was fine for me. I did want to put out. Did want to throw out something for the art section that we don't usually talk about. There was a certain sound like technician someplace that just really wanted to make slime noises, and he spent so much time. It was like whoever did Groot. I can't remember his name. Who did Groot in the Marvel universe?
It was not Vin Diesel.
That's the name I was going to say. So it's not him.
Wait, was it?
Groot, Marvel actor. It gives us.
Yeah, it was Vin Diesel. I got it.
Vin
it was
Diesel
Vin
spent
Diesel.
a lot of time figuring out how to say "I am Groot" and make it convey a thing. Whoever did the slime sounds on this one, kudos to that guy. I'm shouting you out, boy. Thank you.
And to your point, Braydn, the sound design for
Tap 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 tap.
the narrator.
Oh, like the.
Well, I know her. So her name in the second season turns to what? Michael?
Does it?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, like the Archangel Michael.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic.
But anyway, that whenever like the like mechanical kind of sound effect would come in, the sound. I think the sound design. In fact, sound design should be a component of our art rubric.
And actually, because you brought it up, I was sitting around a 3.5. The sound design might bump me up to a 4. Actually,
I'm adding sound design.
I'm happy with either one, honestly. 3.5 or 4 is where I'm sitting. I want to take as much away from this anime as I possibly can. Yet I can respect like it did good stuff, like in this realm at least.
I will say this. I was thinking 3.5 because if we look at our rubric, 4 is the composition often delivers powerful moments in an excellent fashion. And I actually think that the powerful moments that the art was trying to convey were some of the fight scenes, were the moment with Rimuru and Shizue, were the moment with Rimuru and the students. And I actually think that they delivered those pretty decently. So like I could go 3.5 or 4, but
decently
I can
to me
absolutely
sounds like we're going to move it down a little bit to that 3.5.
I'd be more comfortable with the 3.5 if for no other reason than the fact that generic isekai are having better and better animation as time goes on. If I compare this to other generic isekai, it's still a cut above, in my opinion, in terms of animation. It is better than a lot of them, but that bar is slowly raising. I'm kind of thinking 3.5.
Okay.
I'd be good with a 3.5.
I'm happy there. It does stuff, and sometimes it makes us happy with the art things it does. Sometimes it's a little like, okay, yeah, good, thank you. Thank you.
Generally above average.
Yeah.
Generally above average, but not much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now Braydn.
Yes.
Lead us into where we get to rip this show a new one. Story, which includes plot devices, tone/mood, continuity, world building, pacing, rules and systems, and tropes. One terrible, frequently nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. Correct. 5 exceptional. I'm not even going to bother reading.
So before Braydn gets a chance, I'm actually going to jump in first and say that this actually does suffer quite a bit from being very tropey and not breaking away from the tropes.
Like all the way down to having a mandatory hot tubs or like a hot springs, bath episode.
Well, mandatory hot springs. They do a mandatory. Well, actually, I don't know if that's in the slime. They did a slice of life slime season.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's in the original series or if it's in that series, but they also had the whole beach scene.
Of course. Yep.
So mandatory.
Well, no, the hot bath scenes are in both season 1 and 2.
I'm talking specifically going to the beach, smashing a watermelon.
Oh.
That trope.
The mandatory anime beach scene.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Well, beach episode. It's usually an entire episode.
Yeah, episode, yeah.
And even down to and this is another thing I've noticed lately about isekais, there always has to be a school arc where the character is either a teacher or a student at a school.
True.
Yeah.
Like every isekai at one point, it feels like they have to go to school for something, even if it's completely pointless, which is why they're usually the teacher at that point.
Mm-hmm. You know, I will say the one thing in this whole category I think Slime had going for it. Okay, two things. One, I think the tone and the mood of the show in season 1 was consistent. Slow, nonsensical, little humorous, and not worrisome. Like I think the tone and mood was pretty consistent. I don't think it was strong, but I think it was consistent. And then I actually think the world building part of the show was decent. I think it was decent. And here's why I say that. They introduced an interesting concept, which is a slime character who is patterned after video games, who can absorb skills and abilities by eating things. And then there's this, he kind of becomes the king of this little country, and then they start interacting with the dwarves, and then they interact with the lizard country, then they become allies, then they start to like trade, and then Rimuru starts to like build these roads. In season 2, it branches out. So like, I think the world building was actually pretty decent. I'm not saying it's good.
Grant you.
I'm saying where everything else was bad, it was a high point in this category.
Grant you that the political world building in this show was notable. However, there's many rules and systems that they set up for this world. Think, okay, this is how things work. That they just throw out the window because Rimuru doesn't want it. It's in his way.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of things that like they set up and have structures or rules, and you can't bound Rimuru. He's the OP character that just swallows up. He just swallows the world. So they did themselves a huge disservice in the world building aspect by having Rimuru exist.
Yeah, you could argue that is the rule.
It's a bad
rule. The rule is that he has no rules.
It's a bad rule.
But it's a bad rule.
Sure, you can say whatever you want. There's a huge hole in the world building. I will grant the political. Like it was like considered. You know, it was like allowed to exist and have a conversation in there, but it was not much more than that.
Yeah.
So one good point where you talked about the political world building, it is a very easy argument to say that that's mostly what the show is about.
Yeah. No, truly.
Because again, in my one sentence intro, there's not a lot of action because most of the time they're in meetings. And what are those meetings about? The country in one way or another.
Yes, it is.
And that's why oftentimes I was doing this.
Forward.
Interesting. Ha ha ha, that was funny. Sit back. Anyway, and I don't want to confuse my personal enjoyment with a technical ranking, but I think that I'm saying that I believe those elements were so technically poorly executed that it caused me to want to not watch them.
Well, to add to that, the fact that you could skip over it and still know exactly what was going on means that they were unimportant.
That too. This show could have been half as long, and it would have been just as good. Or in Braydon's case, just as bad.
Correct. So
okay, where are we landing with story, guys?
There are notes about the show that are consistent and give some ounce of strength to the show. So I'm going to vote a 1.5.
I was going for a 2.53.
Oh.
I really like all the rest of it is so bad. I don't think let's just go to the rubric. Let's just go to the rubric. So bad too, it was sometimes nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. To me, that pretty perfectly describes the story aspect of this show.
You know, when you read it like that,
which is the reason we have it written down. Yes, because we have to keep ourselves in some kind of rubric. Oh man.
I really don't think the story part of Slime deserves any higher than a 2, because even when they tried to have story, like with Shizue, they got like halfway there up the mountain, and then they just like sat down to have a sandwich.
Well,
I forgot about it.
Worse. Where is it? Conflicting, inconsistent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh yeah, we're gonna kill half the city. Psych, they're back.
Yeah, rules and systems.
No.
Yes, like I couldn't give this show higher than a 2 in good conscience based on our rubric.
Yeah, from a technical standpoint.
Yeah. Because like Scott, like Brett said, I'm gonna let you think about your score really quick to see where we're going to come to this. Brett said at the start of this, like, there's a lot of things about the show he doesn't like. Yet it just happened to itch a thing at this point. Like, we're allowing that it could satisfy somebody. Sure.
Well, again, that's why technical rating is a different rating from enjoyment. I gave this a 7, which means that I enjoyed it. I liked it. I've read the manga, so it means I liked it enough to either read the manga and then watch the show, or vice versa. And that's happened several times.
And I'm glad you guys are here, so my blind rage of this anime doesn't like reflect improperly on the technical score. We need the balance of the three of us, 100%.
Right, and so technically, it's like I said, the story just isn't good.
Yeah.
And just like with Mob Psycho, where I really didn't like Mob Psycho, but I could recognize the technical achievement of a lot of the pieces of the show, I can equally recognize I liked Slime, but it had a bad story, poor characters, delivery was like I can recognize technically it's not a great show, but I enjoyed it.
I could lean towards a 2, Skyler. If you're still strong towards that, I like my 1.5. I don't think I can give it a 1. I don't think I can. It didn't hit that level.
No. I think 2 is the rating.
Sometimes nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. Lock it in.
I agree with 2, because there were sometimes, occasionally, when it was interesting or consistent and original, but more often than not, it wasn't.
And the things that I really got upset about, the monsters turning into humans, and the thing I liked about it, which was Rimmer's respectful treatment of appreciating women's breasts. Those were consistent. Like I can't have those notes about this show if there wasn't some measure of consistency in there. So there's something.
Sure, that's good.
There's something. There's a little.
There's something somewhere
underneath, that just rises above the gray wasteland that is this anime. All right, let's move on.
Speaking of Rimuru, let's go to characters. Characters includes their design, development, motivation, their action and inaction, their relationships, and their personalities.
Okay, so this one's easy. There's only 5 characters.
One is terrible. The characters are frequently unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static, dynamic, and annoying. 5, the characters are always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable. And let me pause really quick.
Hurt me with this
let me pause this real quick. For anyone listening, you're probably realizing our technical rating is really heavily focused on season 1. If we were including season 2, Braydn hasn't seen season 2. If we were including season 2, it might have a slight impact on some of these things. I think maybe the story goes up a little bit, maybe the characters, but just as a heads up, we're admitting to everyone that we talked about season 2, but we're really kind of technically ranking season 1.
Honestly,
listeners, I hate to drag this on because we're like really dwelling on this section, but that's actually a really good point. We are reviewing both seasons 1 and 2. Like, regardless of me, you guys are supposed to be the ones that pull the proper tentacle into the story. So if we need to go back to the story,
then, for me, honestly, the 2 story rating is including season 2 because, like I said, the town died, but they came back.
Right.
That includes it.
Just wanted to check. We're still on place.
Yeah, no, that's true. I would feel good with a 2 for season 2 as well. Just to clarify. Season 1, I would push it toward a 1.5. Season 2, I would push it more toward a 2.5 because in season 2, things actually happened. Like there was actually a plot in season 2. And so I would push season 2 toward a 2.5. I would push season 1 toward a 1.5. So meeting at a 2, I think is a great landing point.
Let's continue.
For characters, so for characters, I'll just give out a note that in season 2, the characters had way more movement and growth and they were more dynamic, but it still was like, how do I put this? If you take a giant rock that has never moved and you move it 3 inches, that is a infinite change from its previous state.
1 is greater than 0.
And it could be it could be considered incredible, but it still only moved 3 inches. So that being said, that's how I want to kind of bring up season 2. There was some movement there, but then they literally hit the reset button at the end of every episode. And there was like 2 episodes where Rimuru just went absolutely like bat crazy, and it was like, oh man, this is a side we've never seen. And then the next episode comes back as a demon lord. I'm the same happy person, and we're gonna hold a council about what we should do. And it was like, any progress was just erased. And even in the final battle, it was so disappointing. The relationships in the battle, the characters, like Veldora, Braydn, you're going to love this. Veldora enters season 2 as, you guessed it, a human.
Does he really? No, he doesn't. Are you serious?
Yeah, and it was also pretty disappointing. So, anyway, so
oh my goodness.
So point being, with characters, I'm going to say that whatever rating we come up with, I would nudge it forward by like 0.5. But let's talk about where we think characters.
Let's talk about design real quick, because like I've said, I have a problem with them all turning into human. Because I want to allow that their monster design was interesting, or at least added diversity to the screen, and then they did themselves a disservice of having them all waste to humans. Instead of building into that diversity that they'd already established, they wasted it. That's not great. They started with something that was decent, and they went blind with it.
Could I bring up one point of like a to be fair type of thing? In Japanese culture, that is what they do though. Like they humanize anything that is supposed to be represented as good, and they demonize or monsterize anything that is supposed to be represented as bad. So from a cultural perspective, they were showing that these things becoming more human is because they are good. They are more good. It's a cultural thing. Just as a heads up.
No,
so like,
you have made that point before. I remember this. Which is a good consideration. That where this comes from. I know we are Americans rating this, and that's where I'm getting any of my rage about this from. Yet the original inspiration is something to consider.
One additional thing about that and Japanese culture, where like the good things are humanized and the bad things are not. The word for it is, let's see if I can pronounce this correctly, Tsukumogami. Where the idea is that these objects are essentially like, as we have emotions or we have intense emotions around these objects, our emotions go into these objects. And then once they've accrued enough of this energy, they gain sentience or they do these other things. And so that's why in a lot of anime where Tsukugami is a thing, that's why.
Yes. And I remember many times where like a thing became important enough that it became personified. It's like this beautiful representation of like, loving enough, and you like gain humanity from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. Sure, exactly.
Not a strong note here.
to that point, though, I would say, Braydn, that for me, like the design of the characters, I don't think there was anything special about their design.
Yeah,
to me, it was just meh. Like Sure, it's an anime, and there are characters that are designed.
Yeah, yeah. I have a problem with it, how they handled the transformations and this, like the stat standard transformation. Yet I would agree that this doesn't really put it above or below any other anime in the fact of just the design of the characters.
But you know what does fall short?
Yeah.
Their development, their relationships,
motivation,
and
absolute inaction of everybody.
Motivation is about the only good trait here because, again, this is something I brought up earlier. Rimuru's motivation wasn't just become the most powerful in the world. It was actually something different.
Yeah, and
I'm actually gonna agree with that, because he had some type of motivation throughout the show. He wanted to help these kids, like with not dying. He wanted to develop a relationship with Shizue. He wanted to build a society. And so like he did have motivations where, as Skyler mentioned, a lot of, if I was putting something in a meh category or a bad category, it would be someone who literally is just, I've got to grow stronger.
Okay.
Which is a lot of them.
Okay. I got two things to say here. First of all, I'm actually going to lean and give you a little bit more in saying that there had to be some motivations of the side characters because there was a lot of politics in this. There has to be a contrast for like having some kind of push. However, every other character in this bleeding show, like I said, falls into two categories. He gets devoured by Rimuru, or he stands beside him, behind him, away from him, in front of him. Like, it didn't matter what their motivations were, those things go to the side. In fact, that's one of the things that really upset me about right after the dwarf arc in the first season, is the dwarves, like, they're like, oh, you broke the law, or we want to build our kingdom, or whatever. It doesn't matter. He says we go, so we're going that way. The wolves, same thing. You just killed my dad? Oh, I don't care. Let's go that way. That's good. That's chill.
Yeah, you're our favorite now.
Our favorite.
We'll die for you.
That was every single side character, unless they were opposing him, and then again, those just got eaten. So motivation besides the main character didn't matter. They explicitly omitted like motivation of any other source besides the main character.
Yeah, and that fits into relationships for me as well. Like the relationships in this show were all superficial at best. Like weak relationships. The relationship was, I didn't kill you. Thanks. I'm your best friend.
Yep.
And that's literally what the relationships are.
Yeah.
So yes, it's superficial, but it's also not, which makes it hyper superficial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it like makes it worse.
It spins poorly. There's some meth things, but honestly, if we're talking about scores, I would say characters didn't rub me as bad as the story did. Like, I know I have these like big glaring things, but there's a lot of things that were just okay and were bogged down by the story, or that were bad on like the motivation stuff we just talked about. But I mean,
I want to add one thing that I do think. One thing that I do think is bad, and first of all, this comment is going to go against my previous comment that the tone and the mood of the show was consistent. I recognize that as a high point. However, I'm going to add a counterpoint to what I said earlier, which is that the unreasonable static nature of every single character throughout the entire duration of the show is infuriating on an enjoyment level, and I believe that it is a really poor choice to make from a technical level because there is no growth for these characters other than the pace at which Rimuru acquires skills, and it makes the show have no weight, no consequence, and no progression almost of any kind when the characters are just who they are always, no matter what happens. Even though like in the moment Rimuru gets really pissed because everyone got murdered, 2 episodes later he's exactly the same and none of it matters.
Even for the main guy, like, even for the one person we're trying to give any kind of credence to, Also doesn't really change.
There are some shadows. Like someone in the comments might be upset. Like, yeah, there are some episodes later on where he does show kind of under the covers a little bit more of that kind of like fire behind the eyes. But I would say that overall, even though they wanted the tone to be consistent for the show, that the level of staticness that they built into the characters did not really help when they wanted season 2 to be more intense, but they didn't allow anyone to grow. It really just, I don't know. It felt very like the show built its own dichotomy into itself.
So one thing, Geld, the character Geld, he's the orc guy who's kind of the leader of the workers.
Yeah.
I like Geld because he's one of the only characters who changes and progresses. And unfortunately, I have to go into manga spoiler territory to go into stuff that's happening with Geld. But Geld is like the only one that comes to my mind of someone who actually changes and progresses and is having these problems that he's dealing with. And it's like, oh yeah, I see that you're struggling with it. Well, here's some things that you can do to work with it. And you see him working through it.
True.
Everyone else?
And my favorite character, Benimaru.
Benimaru,
the red guy. He also is dynamic. But Skyler, to your point, when I think about characters I like from the show, I think about Benimaru and Geld.
Yep.
Like those characters that progress, they change, they have meaning and purpose. Like, yeah, for sure.
Emotion.
But that is, but they are the exception to the rule of this show. So, So Skyler, me and Braydn have both given our ratings for art and story first. You lead us into where you think characters sit.
Okay, so let's just go through this real quick. Design, meh. Development, bad. Motivation, bad to meh. Inaction, terrible. Relationships, bad. Personality, I'd actually get meh to good. So I think 3 to a 2.5.
Okay.
I could go with a 2.5. I could totally go with the 2.5.
I will come from the bottom up and say 2 to 2.5.
I could also easily go 2. I was thinking 2. I could go to 2.5. I could go to 2. I think I would go to 2. I think season 2 bumps it by half a point. I would give, because of season 2, a 2.5. But I would go, if we were just talking season 1, I would go 2 all the way. I
easily have to give that to you too, because I haven't seen season 2, where apparently this stuff happens. So
so this is including season 2, and I am leaving out the manga.
But they made Veldora, they made my dragon into a human. Him?
And not just a human, a lazy, annoying, doesn't do anything the whole season human.
Come on!
I know, man. I was so pissed. I was so mad. And they even insinuated he would do something the whole season, and then he did nothing.
Oh, he does the whole, Dragon Ball Kamehameha thing.
Okay. He does one.
It's a joke.
He does one thing. They set up.
All right.
They set up for him to battle his sister in season 3, but it's all set up.
Okay.
So yeah, I want to give 2, but I think season 2 bumps it up half a point to a 2.5.
Okay. I mean,
all right, 2.5. Just the thought alone that Rimuru just up and killed 10,000 people out of nowhere, like something happened in season 2 to make that happen. Whereas in season 1 nothing happened.
Hey, his gelatinous escort disappeared.
I feel like it at a 2.5 just brings down all the meh anime. Like, it just lowers our standards for like average level anime. But I digress. I can't account for season 2.
If we look at our rubric, 2 is the characters are sometimes unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static, dynamic, and annoying.
Yes, I'm aware. just to give our viewers where we're going off of 2.5, let's land it and move on.
Yeah. All right, 2.5. Moving on. Delivery. This is the translation of the subtitles, the voice acting for sub/dub, the script, and the edit. 1, terrible. The delivery is frequently cheesy, inappropriate, incoherent, and bland. 5, the delivery is always believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching. I'm gonna just throw out right now, with almost no discussion, this is a solid 3 for me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything special. I don't think there's anything bad. It's just an anime that exists.
On delivery, nah, because there's nothing that stands out. There's nothing that detracts.
Yeah. I'm scanning things.
Yeah, Braydn, do you have anything that like you really didn't like or that you really did like? Or sorry, excuse me. Is there anything you think that was done really well or that was not done well in terms of the voice acting and the script translation?
Honestly,
other than the fact that the script exists. Okay,
yeah, that's all character though. Really, there's one thing in like having a character and then misrepresenting them by the script, and there's this where you just have bad characters. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I digress. We're off that section. Yes, the 3 sounds fine by me. Honestly, I don't remember anything special about the voice acting in English or in the sub. I don't remember anything like coming off strange, like it didn't translate well to English. I don't remember any particular like ways they portrayed their sad excuse for a story that left me like, oh, they could have done this a better way or more interesting way. No, it wasn't good. So I like things that they just did this. They delivered what they wanted. They seem to have done that. Just want more, guys. That's all I'm asking.
Totally. And just so we let's do a recap then. So art 3.5, clearly what held up the show. Story 2, characters 2.5, delivery 3, which gives us a final score, technical, of 5.5.
Oh, crew, this is not good. My report says this is not good. This anime scored almost a full point under our other most recent low score, which was Belle, the movie. So that one was at a 6.25. That's 0.75 under on the other anime we reviewed so far. Which, to be fair, we reviewed some bangers recently. Like we had Cowboy Bebop, Mob Psycho. We landed with stinking Sword Art Online last week. Like we came out swinging. And to give you just a little bit more diversity, it's a little sour with all that sweet of ours. We decided to squeeze in this one for you guys. So you guys like the salt and vinegar kind of chip. This is for you guys.
+1. I'm actually gonna really quick. Let's say equals 14.5 divided by 3.
What are you doing?
So we have an average. We have an average enjoyment rating of 4.83. Because of the 1 and the 6 and 7, so an average of 4.83.
Yeah, I'm doing the show justice, boys. Let's go.
But an average with 3 people,
and also an average 3 people, but also our scores, our rating, our rubrics are vastly different. There's a reason why we talk about it in every show is because they're not aligned. We have the way we talk about them enable us to talk about this show interestingly between us. So we need our diverse rubric. So it's not fair just to average them. Though that is also funny. Yeah. Because numbers exist. Yep. So
numbers always exist.
They always exist.
All right. That wraps up our enjoyment and technical discussion of the show. Before we move on and wrap up this episode, if people enjoyed watching Slime, or if they didn't and you think you have something they would like more, what do you guys have recommendation wise? And I'll actually go first. I've got a couple. One of them that I said I was going to recommend is The Rising of the Shield Hero. I recommend The Rising of the Shield Hero. I thought it was better than Slime. It's not the greatest isekai of all time, but It was better than
Yes.
Slime. I thought it was interesting. It was more engaging. There were characters that I actually liked. If you want Slime, but a little more serious, a little more in depth.
The first half of that
maybe-
season is nasty, dude.
Okay. There's some really intense moments in the
Yes.
show. My point is, if you want something that's more than Slime, Rising of the Shield Hero is one I would recommend. It's another isekai. It's got some good stuff to it. It has some of the same flaws as Slime. So if you agreed with some of the things we were saying, then I actually think you'll enjoy Rising of the Shield Hero if you like Slime at all. So that's my first recommendation. My next recommendation is going to be Konosuba. Konosuba is next one. It's got some fan service. It's got some some funny little stuff. It's got some light colorful animation.
Yeah, if you want to lead in the comedy of isekai, go ahead and watch Konosuba. Yep.
I was actually also going to recommend a comedy isekai, Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense.
Oh, God, man, there's just a lot of these isekai, aren't there?
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
I love me good isekai, and man, do I hate me some average isekai. Man, I do.
This is an interesting bell curve we could draw where Braydon's acceptance level of isekai it drops off dramatically at a certain point, whereas mine and Skyler is much more logarithm, or is a much more linear approach to isekai.
Yeah. Actually,
anyway, okay.
So I want to toss in one here on the note of our slime boy being a slime boy, but doing it very poorly. To Your Eternity, because of a thing that consumes other entities and gains their powers and explores those powers and has to use them in diverse situations and has those powers taken away from them. Spoilers. And has struggle and has a lot of emotion. To Your Eternity is a fantastic anime that has to deal with loss and a lot of grief. We've touched about it a couple times in the show. Go watch To Your Eternity if you want any exploration of what it means to actually what it means to consume another being for powers. That it's just lands it. Absolutely just lands it.
Yeah, thank you, Braydon. Thank you. That one is so good. So
yep.
Skyler, any other recommendations from you?
If you like a monster isekai where the person reincarnated is a monster, I mentioned this earlier. I'm a Spider, so what?
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a full recommendation for me. It's not that good.
It's about the same.
But if it's
actually,
your
if
thing,
you like,
go
if
for
you
it.
like slime, go watch the spider one. It's the same thing.
Ascendance of a Bookworm is another similar.
Goodness gracious, you guys!
I have not seen
one.
that one.
Yeah. Any other recommendations? Oh yeah, if you like isekai and you haven't already, for some crazy reason, seen the first 14 episodes of Sword Art Online, go watch the first 14 episodes of SAO, and go listen to our podcast from last week where we cover the first 14 episodes of SAO and some. SAO.
Yep.
If you haven't seen that isekai, what are you doing?
Online.
It is the quintessential isekai along with a couple other notable ones, but go watch the first 14 of SAO.
And I got one more to toss in just because I'm going to make it work. This is not where I'm going to say that one anime again and just squeeze it in somehow. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to mention it. The name's not going to come up. You guys all know who it is. You're fans of the show. You understand what I'm saying. No, this one is a very fun anime. I'm going to go on just two notes here. You want the chill, the absolute chill of just having something to put on to watch. And yet you want actual character progression and more relatable interactions between characters and things that you might relate to. Agretsuko on Netflix is a very fun anime. A very, very fun anime. Lightheart, little chill thing. I love this. I love this show.
Which one is that? Which one is that?
Agretsuko.
Yeah, but I don't think I've even heard of that one.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. It's a
and
Zootopia.
It's a fun one.
Yeah. It's a Zootopia kind of landscape. it has like a chibi art style more than like an anime art style or like a traditional anime art style. And it deals with a lady in an office, and the way she deals with her struggles against like harassment or mistreatment in the office is she goes to the restroom and lets out her feelings through screamo music in a microphone that she makes, and it's actually really fun. I actually, since like people like I will mention that people really like the English version of the screamo because they can understand it. I like the Japanese version because I really don't understand it, and it sounds even more. It's like feral, and I love it.
Oh, interesting.
So Agretsuko, we talk about a lot of the same anime. We talk about Yuri on Ice. Oh, that anime. We talk about SAO. We talk about To Your Eternal. We talk about those ones a lot. I'm trying to squeeze this in so you guys know we have a diversity of anime we watch it on the show. Even me who talks about the same one anime every episode. So
I try not to recommend the same one too much, but
Yes.
you're right. There are ones that come up a lot.
Yeah.
I'll actually add one out there as well, Braydon, and I'm gonna check that one out.
You should.
By the way,
You should watch it with Bridget.
I'm gonna go watch it.
Season
I
3 just
I
came
just
out,
watched it.
so I
It-
need to go watch it.
Yeah.
Is it 12 episodes a season or
I think it's
24?
12.
12.
12? Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, I'll do one more. We talked about isekai. We talked about politics. If you like
I know what you're doing.
politics, if you love politics, if you love thinking about economies for hours,
Hours of
Log Horizon.
economies.
Oh, I was not
if you
expecting that one.
if you want almost no action and all politics and weird decision making in plot and story, go watch Log Horizon.
Yep.
It's up there as one of the top isekai of all time. I personally hate it, but if you like that thing, go for it. Okay. Those are our recommendations for shows to watch if you watched Slime, liked or didn't like Slime. What are we doing next week? Next week, we're getting back on track with another banger.
Yeah, we are.
Next week, we are going to be discussing Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Snap. I forgot we're doing this one.
Oh, yeah.
I hope all of you are ready because that is going to be a great episode. And it is the poster child for anime that you want to recommend to everyone you know, but you always explain the show before you tell them the title.
Yes, you do. Absolutely. And
It is awesome, and we can't wait to have all of you join us for that discussion next week. Arigato for listening, for watching. Check us out on all of our socials, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, all the places. And until next time, Jeanne.
farewell. Thank you for watching.
See ya.
俺は